Okay, now, I think I'm partially responsible for it. This is the first time Gandalf showed up, and it turned out to be me in a sense. And so what I had been doing since the early 90s, we got a PET scan, a positron emission tomography, and one of the things we were doing was these serial killers, bad murderers would come in, and then during the penalty phase of the trial, they'd say, okay, I'll get a PET scan, and then you can tell me that I'm crazy so I don't get the death penalty. And so we'd done that 1 or 2 a year, and it was thrilling for the medical students because they bring these guys in manacles and shackles into the PET scanner, SWAT team on top of the medical school buildings. The dean and the chancellor loved this, of course. But this went on for a number of years, and other people were sending me different kinds of scans. So I was looking at different scans of murders. But I told them, don't tell me who's who. I wanted to do it all blind. Because, you know, even when you try, you create a narrative in your head of the way things should be. I said, don't tell me even if they're killers or anything. So I got a whole bunch of these in 2005. And when I was looking at them, I realized it was a pattern. And I'm not an expert in psychopathy or in murders or anything else. It's just one of the things you do when you're a neuroanatomist, like patterns, so people send you this stuff. And that's my computer game. It always has been. And I noticed this pattern, and the pattern was that in all the psychopaths, the area of the brain that's called the limbic system, it's part of the social brain and emotional regulation, that it was turned off in all these guys. So I just kind of put together a theory and kind of vetted it at different psychiatry departments, law schools, and everything, just to kind of move it around. And that was 2005. So I had this theory. And then just happened to be we're looking for the genes associated with Alzheimer's, because we know the ApoE, but we thought there might be a gene that would interact with it, that would really cause trouble for people who had these genetics. And so we needed some normals. So I got some controls, and I was one of the controls, because we had to get the study done. We had all the Alzheimer's patients. And so what we ended up with is all the controls look like controls. It was great, except one. I looked at the PET scan, and I told the technician, I said, you got to go check the scanner, because this is obviously one of the killers. Because it looked like the worst of the psychopaths that I had looked at ever. And they went and checked the machine twice and everything, the whole provenance of the data. They go, no, it's somebody in that group. So I had to peel back the name. I said, somebody's running loose who's a control. And there's a murder, and of course I peeled, and the name on it was mine. And you know, when I saw it, I just kind of laughed. I said, I'm not a murderer or a rapist, any of that stuff. I'm a normal guy. So I just kind of blew it off, and I just thought to myself, well, you know, the theory's probably wrong. Turns out that, you know, it had to be that. And but it turns out the theory wasn't wrong, because other people after this found the same pattern in psychopaths. So it wasn't that. We were very busy that year looking at the genetics and the scans of schizophrenics and people with Alzheimer's. So we were really distracted. But within about 6 months, in 2006, I got the first of my genetics back. And the genetics, the alleles, the forms of the genes that I had, all lined up with high violence and high aggression, a low anxiety, and a kind of empathy that's consistent with a psychopath. So now, you know, I've got the two biological markers, including ones in my own theory, and I still was pretty much in denial. About the same time, we were having a party. My mother's 97 now, and she's just full of it. She's cognitively in great shape. And she says, your cousin gave me a book. You got to read this. It's a historical book, and it's about your father's family. Now, her whole family's from Sicily, and she always got the business about being mafia. In fact, growing up, she was a bootlegger and all this stuff, and she rode a dynamite truck to Lucky Luciano's place. But they were all good people. You know, they were... So she was sick of that. And here was a book, and it was about the first killing of a mother by a son, matricide, in the American colonies. And it was my direct grandfather, okay? It was the Cornells. But in that, you know, one of my cousins is Ezra Cornell, who founded Cornell University. That's very nice, right? Kind of offset it. But also because, hopefully, that was the idea. And another cousin, though, was Lizzie Borden. Now, cousin Lizzie got a lot of press. I tell you, she's innocent. We don't count Lizzie as one of the murderers in our family. But we also found, for example, that one of my cousins,